Hi everyone, welcome to sketching. It's day 22 of my sketching channel. I hope you're having a great day, a great holiday off on this holiday period. Not long to go before 2018 now. So let's try making our sketching challenge a New Year's resolution. So today what I'm drawing is just a small mushroom slice that I found on the in the kitchen when my wife was making some pizza or something. So I thought this will be an interesting thing to draw. So what I did was I took the picture of the image with some decent lighting, and obviously mushrooms, you don't generally see many colours on a mushroom, only a couple of colours, but if you use some decent lighting, you can really bring out some kind of like colours that you don't initially see. So all I did with this one was I started off by blocking in the overall shape of the of this slice of mushroom, and just adding in the darks and lights, and kind of with a light brown touch and some grey, just kind of creating a bit of texture. Today what I used was the it's called an old brush from the standard palette in Procreate, and I've used this brush quite a lot previously. Before I had my iPad Pro, I used it a lot on the iPad Air, and I used it with like the fat type of styluses that you kind of get with the kind of rubber tip at the end, and it used to work really nice. It created a lot of texture and kind of like random strokes, and I kind of really liked that effect, and I thought it'd work pretty nicely on this. And I also kind of swapped in between the Gensinki brush, a little bit of oil brush, to kind of really mix in those textures to make this a true mixed media kind of effort. I've always liked to kind of use mixed brushes in a lot of my traditional work, because I tend to do a lot of mixed media art, more on the kind of paint side and the brush side rather than the kind of collage site, or the type of like bumps and grinds with acrylic pastes and things like that. I tend to go for more of a flat look but a mixed media look. But anyway, coming back to the drawing, so I used a lot of the kind of side tilt function of the Apple Pencil with the HB pencil to kind of come up with some nice rough areas on the mushroom where the darks were. And all I'm doing here now is just adding in some detail onto that little kind of curvy bit that you get on both sides of the mushroom, to just kind of bring in some details to kind of guide myself on for the kind of colouring stage. I mean, again, this process is working pretty nice for me on the iPad Pro. Generally, I kind of, from a traditional perspective, you can't really do things in this order, whereas because you're working in digital, you can pretty much do them in any order you want, because you're working on different layers. You can go in, you can change things, you're not kind of bound by the material aspect of things. Whereas in traditional, you'd have to, I would have to kind of do it stage by stage and have to really plan it out in order to get the effect that I'm after, because some things on traditional you just can't undo or fix, and whereas with digital you've literally got the freedom to pretty much do whatever you want, in terms of kind of working on one thing, then working on another, and then going back and changing some things. It's great for flexibility. So all I'm doing now is I'm just adding with a darker brown shade the kind of more flat area of the mushroom. So this kind of dark area here, it was quite flat at the bottom, so you didn't really need much gradients or texture here, but the texture was on the top part of this, that curvy area where I'm working on now. So I'm just kind of adding in where the darks are, so I can get it ready to kind of work in the layers of paint. So just use like a dark reddish brown colour to kind of go over, and basically I was just kind of adding more and more layers onto this to kind of really bring this out, and it worked pretty well. I mean, there's a lot of colour in this. I mean, if you actually look at the image that I've got, there's you've got reds in here, you've got oranges, you've got a lot of reflected light, because the light that I had in the kitchen where I took this on the tabletop, I used my iPhone to take this image, and then I did some editing on it. So basically a lot of the light kind of reflected onto the mushroom itself, and that just gave it so much more depth and made it so much more interesting. And I would advise that to kind of take pictures of simple objects or simple things and use a lot of lighting, dramatic lighting, sharp lighting, to really bring that out in the image and make it a lot more interesting, because obviously the more things you have on an image, the more colours you've got, the more you can work with. whereas if I'd just taken this picture of this mushroom in it, you know, without any lighting, just flat, I wouldn't really have much to work with in terms of colour. So again, I'm bringing in a lot of these oranges and yellows, using the acrylic brush here to really build this colour effect, and effectively it's really like a watercolour painting. I mean, I do watercolour as well. I use ink and watercolour in my traditional art, where I use washes of watercolour, washes of ink to slowly build up colour. And I think the effect on this piece that I did here was quite true to that watercolour effect. So it was quite an interesting draw, this. I mean, I like to vary each drawing that I do on this challenge, purely from a learning perspective for myself. I want to really use all the brushes that are available in Procreate within this challenge, because there's not many days left now. We're on day 22, so there's only 8 days left. So that's 8 more sketches to do, and I really want to test out the other brushes. So what I might do tomorrow is I might use a brush that I've never used before and try coming up, initially you use that brush and then bring in the brushes that I regularly use. It just makes it more interesting, and it kind of makes the experience a lot more, a lot more fun, really, because that's what it's all about. It's about having fun. It's about enjoying yourself. It's about expressing yourself and learning, because you're never going to stop learning. Well, I never stop learning anyway. There's always something new that you learn from another artist, or something new that you've picked up, or you've seen something in a different light. But yeah, it's art is just great. It's just an expression of yourself, really. That's what it is. Anyway, coming back to this drawing, I'm doing a lot of cross hatching today on this. I thought to really bring out the effect of this this kind of look that I was after. I really wanted to build in a lot of depth with the differing textures and cross hatching. That little button, that little thing that just came up on the screen, it was my battery was running out low, and that's quite a problem that I'm having with the iPad Pro. And I've heard this from a lot of other people as well who've got the iPad Pro, that the battery does drain out really quickly when you're using the Apple Pencil, say for like a couple of hours. I mean, today, this drawing probably took me around about 45 minutes or something, but I was using the iPad Pro for a lot more longer as well on other kind of sketches that I was doing, and it does really drain. So I guess I might do a video on the pros and cons of having an iPad Pro, and what alternatives you can have as well. So all I'm doing here is, with the airbrush, I'm just adding in the drop shadow on the table, going in quite dark and putting a bit more shadow on the actual mushroom itself on the edges. And then after I do this, because this is just the initial darkening stage, I reduce the opacity so that it becomes nice and uniform across the image. It looks nice and clean. And then with that same airbrush, I'm just adding in again some of the rough area darks that I've got on this to really bring out the overall look of it. I mean, it's a pure illustrative drawing. This it's not photorealism, it's not realism, it's just a nice illustration of a mushroom, a slice of mushroom, and this would work really well if you're doing like a composition of loads of different elements on a kind of plate or like on a table, where you've got a nice selection of colours. It would work really well, this technique. I think I might do something like this in 2018 on one of my kind of standalone drawings that I do. So all I'm doing right now is just adding in some highlights with the white gel pen from the inking palette in Procreate. There are a lot of inking brushes, and I think they're all really good, because the inking stage in traditional would be done with a gel pen. I mean, I've got probably about 3 or 4 different gel pens that I use on the traditional side, and I like to vary the strokes. But again, the advantage with the iPad is that you've got such a massive array of kind of pens and brushes that you have, that you can literally change within a second the size of the head, and you can change the opacity, and in traditional art you can't do that. So it's just brilliant, I think. I mean, if you've already got an iPad Pro, I would definitely recommend this challenge, and if you really want to get back into art, or if you want to start in art and you don't know where to start and you've got technology, I would really say go for it, and let's see how it goes. It will really help you and improve on your skills. So all I'm doing here is just darkening and lightening the areas to really bring out that texture. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from it. Please give the video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel for more content, and I hope hopefully I'll see you on the next one. So keep sketching, take care of yourself, and peace.